Today's video is both a wrap-up of the entire lot of books that I read in February, which was one, and also it's a review for Gathering of Shadows, which was the only book I read in February. So, keeping with today's theme of magic, I am providing a magic trick here of 2 videos in 1 video. You're welcome for that. Okay, so, A Gathering of Shadows. The main event happening here is called the Essentosh, which is the Element Games, and in the Element Games, magicians from Kel's kingdom and the neighboring kingdoms compete to win the crown of best magician in the world, in the land. And besides that, you have shadowy things happening in the Shadows of Shadows, which I can't talk about because spoilers, but there are things happening in the other Londons that are going to affect each of the Londons in turn. My thoughts on the Essentosh being a part of this book is that it was a great way to build tension towards the climax of the story. It was a great way to introduce new characters and also add different layers to familiar characters and give them different ways to develop. And it was also effective at showing how vital magic is to Red London's entire way of being. Red London is the London that has the most healthy relationship with magic. We've also come to see how they take advantage of magic there and take it for granted, and they don't necessarily consider the fact that they have the most magic out of all the Londons, and yet they're also not putting it to the best use. Another awesome thing about this book is that it expands on the world building of the first book, which was fantastic, but here in the second book you get characters from 2 neighboring countries. I forget what they're called. There are characters from those countries competing in the Essentosh, and you also meet their royalty and the different characters involved in their politics. In doing that, there's a larger discussion of what Kel, who is the last Antari, or the last world-traveling magician, there's a discussion of what he means to his kingdom, and then also how he affects the entire balance of power between these different countries, and you get a greater sense of how much of a burden his powers are to him. My one issue with the introduction of these new countries and these new peoples is that there wasn't really enough description for me of these countries and of the people who live there. There were very small tidbits of culture, how these people view magic and how it differs from Kel's kingdom, but there wasn't a lot, or at least enough for me, definition of these other countries and how their politics affect the play of power between these 3 countries. The feeling that produced in me is that I kind of felt claustrophobic. We were only getting a sense of Red London, and there were these other places that I couldn't travel to in the book because they weren't being described in enough detail. But at the same time, I think that was kind of the point of the book, is that Kel is trapped by his powers, he's trapped by the role he plays with the king and the queen, and he's basically the pillar of his empire's strength, and he's not allowed to leave, so he feels restricted, and he feels like he's being put in a cage. So, in a sense, that kind of works for the story. Then, of course, you have Lila, beautiful, cross-dressing pirate Lila, who is an incredible character. She really complements Kel. She is a lot different than him in the fact that she constantly runs away from commitment, from responsibility, from the people who care about her, and that's really affected her life so far. But also in this book, you get a sense that that is beginning to change, that she's becoming tied down by relationships in a way that she's not necessarily opposed to. There's a lot of character development here in terms of Kel, his role that he plays in his country and how he feels about that, and whether or not he's going to change how he's viewed by the people around him. And then also with Lila, you get a sense that she's beginning to change and her heart's beginning to open, and she may actually find love, and if not love, a deep friendship that produces good, proper emotions in her, for once. This book felt more character-driven to me than the first book, but I really enjoyed that because, like I said, I love Lila and Kel. So if you like the characters in the first book, you're gonna like where their stories go in this book, because they definitely veer off the path that you thought they would go on, but at the same time, they stay true to themselves, and I just love the characters in this book. This is a book I thought about constantly when I was at work or out with friends or doing something when I couldn't be reading. I wanted to come home and read this book immediately, and I really think that speaks to the power of the series, and to a greater extent to V.E. Schwab as a writer. I think her writing is just fantastic. I really do feel like this is a book that she was meant to write. You just get the sense that the writer really is the only one that could tell the story properly. As a reader, that was just a true joy for me to experience. So I love this book, and I hope that many of you will pick it up in turn. Let me know if this review has convinced you to move it up on your TBR list. I hope it has, because I want people to read this all across the world. That is going to be it for today. I hope you guys have a great week, and I will talk to you all later. Bye!